21% said their agencies hadn't started to plan.
You could change the federal retirement system. The Chief of Naval Operations says all the Navy's investigations into
The Office of Personnel Management wants to know what federal employees think of their benefits.
Welcome to the Federal Leaders Playbook, where high performers in the public sector can push their career forward by learning about the trends, innovation, and technology advancing agency performance. We're kicking off Season 1 by exploring the world of IT service management. We're talking about how federal IT organizations are evolving to manage budget cuts, security breaches, and ever-increasing service demands. Here we go.
Welcome. Today's topic is going to be what's next? Drive automation, integrate. I'm Tom Hamill. I've been working in the federal space with ITSM for about 20 years now, and I am with Acuity.
I'm Jessica Alfaro, Senior Manager at Acuity. Been working in the ITSM space for 15 years. Very passionate about automation and integration. A lot of my previous work is around CMDB and discovery, so interested in seeing how organizations could move forward with automation.
Excellent. I'm Eric Lazarson. I have been in the ITSM space for about 15 years. Worked at a number of large software vendors in this space as well. I love the topic, integrate. So let's get into it.
Carrie Pastorero. I've been in the federal consulting space for about 13 years, largely focused on the implementation of enterprise applications, as well as process definition and maturity. Happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
We also have a special guest today from BMC, Jeff Collison.
Hey, folks. Jeff here. Been working with BMC Software for about 18 years. Primarily, when I first started my career, it was working with many of the civilian agencies inside the Beltway. Last 7 or 8 years, I've been focusing on the DoD agencies out there, so I have a lot of experience before. And automation really excites me because that's where I can really drive a lot of efficiency gains across the enterprise.
Okay, thank you. So let's just dive right in. So what is automation? What does it look like in the IT service management world? I
see it really about maximizing efficiencies by integration of technology out there. So by integration of that technology, what I see is you're starting to break down silos. I used to work for a security company. My second job, I'm a little older now, but on my second job, I used to work for a well-known security company out there. So I really have a passion for IA and information assurance. And really what I see from a automation and integration perspective is tying the IA world into the operations world. So I can break down that silo and have multiple tools really combine as one, again, through technology integration and automation to provide better situational awareness across the agencies, whatever agency and whatever mission that you're conducting today.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, starting to pull in those other tools. A number of these agencies, they'll make their initial purchase, or by now, all of them have purchased, all the major government agencies out there have already purchased some sort of tool for service management. It is a tool that is varying in levels of usage, the functionality within it. There's some automation within the tool itself, but then they start to see gaps in data. And I think that's what you're referring to, Jeff, is there's gaps in, vulnerability information or in their assets or their CIs out in production. And how do you get that information in? And then, how do you do that so it's not a manual process?
Right. I think we've experienced a lot of recognition that certain tools can and maybe should tie into ITSM, but there's a fear in doing so to actually make the technical integration. I think when you get the technical people in the room, the message is always the same, is that these things do work together and it's easy to make them talk to each other. It's figuring out why you don't want to. I think we've been in numerous situations where we're pursuing a direct integration to get a data point that we didn't have in the past, but the answer that we get is, instead of an integration, how about we just give you a report that you can consume? So we don't want to make that direct connection. And why do you think that's the case?
I think there is a lot of different issues that are not technology related around that. Primarily, some are based upon control. Do I want you to really see my data or not? But if you're really going to get to provide a situational awareness map or picture, it's got to be a lot more than, hey, I'll just give you a report. Because at the end of the day, if you keep going down the road of, hey, I'll just provide a report, the way that the world is changing and the way that technology is changing, the reports manually created won't really be able to keep up with the maturing, whether it be a threat from IA or cyber or not. Is technology and the world is changing so quickly, and the missions are changing so quickly to satisfy things. The old manual methods of providing a report is really going to be challenging as we move forward to satisfy mission requirements. And even as one example, when you think about it, ACAS or Nessus will come out and tell you these are how many servers that are not passed or don't meet this requirement. But there really isn't too many 0-day attacks out there present today. A lot of the challenges that I see that agencies are facing, it's just patching where there's already a patch out there.
Right. Basic known vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And coming up with ways to remediate those.
Yeah, and the time it takes to get that patch, right? I mean, a lot of the problems is that you'll recognize that it has to be patched, but the time to get that patch into place, tested, and put it in there is a long time. So a lot of automation, it resolves that issue, right? Because you'll have time to patch much quicker if you automate it and push it out automatically.
But does it seem to you that the conversation around integration is more focused on a new tool that gives me a capability that I can bring into my environment versus things we already have and have had for years, and can we make them work together? I personally feel like the focus is always on this new thing that can bring certain pieces of information together, but there's not a whole lot of conversation about, hey, I know this group within my department owns this and manages it. I think I could use it. Let's go talk to them about an integration.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of concept of operations, being able to look at all of the different tools that are out there, laying out how they interact with each other. What am I trying to get from one? How does that feed the other? And what is my final output of what I'm trying to gain, like from that bigger picture? What's the end thing that's going to be consumed? And so I've always tried to push, let's lay out a concept of operations to start. Here are those key tools and how they tie in, to come up with some type of, at least a starting point that gives you something that you can bring to the table and say, this is how I think we can utilize the data from your tool and the output of what that would look like.
So let's get a little more specific. So we talked about tools and integrate and automate, and let's give some examples. So I'll go to one example that I know of, and then I know there's some buzzwords we want to touch on as well. But the monitoring tools and just system outages and being able to quickly identify applications down and integrating your system monitoring tools that have alerts to your service management or incident management tracking tool is one integration that used to be really popular, and then it was I get spammed with too many false positives, and I've seen kind of a trend away from just integrating those two tools. Tom, any thoughts on other tools that you see integrated?
Yeah, I mean, recently we just helped out with a closed loop compliance.
The buzzword, closed loop
compliance. Sure. But when it works, it's pretty cool. So we saw that at one contract where it was so nice to see putting together the ITSM suite where there's a change piece to it. They put in a change for a new server, let's say. And that integrates with the Blade logic that says, okay, I see you want a new server. I put the change in, I get approval, and that says, okay, Blade logic, go ahead and deploy that configured server, and that server is configured in such a way that's consistently going out. And when that server goes out, it closes that change, but then Discovery comes and finds it, right? and then puts it into the CMDB. So there's a nice.
So you said Blade Logic, which is a BMC tool. So
Yeah.
Jeff, I know you've got a lot of experience around that tool and some of the closed loop compliance. Any stories you want to share of where you've seen it go well, where you've seen it, go sideways, things to look out for?
I can share some scary stories. It's not only what was discussed, kind of from a use case, but also I kind of see it as, again, going back to the whether it's a vulnerability or many of us engineers are very used to going through and enabling a quick configuration maybe on a router or something like that I don't necessarily share with the rest of the organization. It's not only the original use case that was just discussed, but also if I do an out of band configuration change, I certainly want that to be recorded because there's usually a communications gap. So if, let's say, I did make that change, because and the reality is it takes me 2 minutes to make a change to a router on the routing list or whatever, versus maybe a little bit longer to actually go through and record the change. But the reality of that is, if maybe I fat fingered something, I can cause a unavailability of service to someone else, and a lot of those incidents will start coming and flooding in the help desk. So it's really going through and helping me, Jeff, as the engineer, certainly make those changes, but also record them so that I'm sharing that information across the board to eliminate other issues in the organization that may occur if I perform a 2-minute change, badly, or I don't do necessarily something. So it's about sharing the information. So I also see that use case, which is really certainly on the capability from a deployment perspective or fulfillment perspective across the board, and applying whatever STIGs or NIST patches that you need. But also on the flip side, it's helping everyone understand and breaking out the silo of what Jeff, the network engineer, might do in the back end. Again, I'm just talking reality, but sharing that information across the board with the rest of my peers in the IT organization. It provides a better situational awareness, and really starts to get you to a kind of more of a mature organization.
I thought it was interesting looking at the recent Gartner report that a lot of it evaluations they did on the product was focused on automation, right? Your maturity and stuff. So a lot of the people that made the magic quadrant, as I think they call it, those tools had an automation seamless piece to it. So automation is important out there.
And as the technology has changed over the years, certainly becoming much more agile, but also REST and REST APIs is kind of more of the standard from an integration perspective, as all the various tools that the agency has out there, that they kind of look at some use cases across the board. They can use that type of capability, technology capability, to integrate and become a little bit more mature as they move forward.
So if you were a federal IT manager and you were in charge of your ITSM system today, what is the first thing that you would integrate, or what is the first piece of automation you would seek out?
Is it one or the other, or both? I mean, you're saying is the first step to say, let me look at what I can integrate, or is the first step?
I think integration with the purpose of some sort of process improvement.
I would say, customers have asked me this before, I would say, development of a discovery type capability with a CMDB. If I don't know what I don't have out there, it's very difficult to instrument it, to monitor it, and it's very difficult to protect it. So I need to really start at a crawl, walk, run perspective to at least understand what I have out there. And more importantly, it's not just understanding what I have out there, it's how those things are related to each other in the environment, as well as the status of it. Where is it? So that's really where the first place I start, and then it's a lot easier to start automating once I know what I have. Automating patches and mismatches, or IA type of patches across that, and then certainly sharing that information across the board with the rest of my peers. may or may not work in different organizations.
I would agree with that. I think if you're embarking on a CMDB journey,
Wow.
to do it without a discovery tool is a mistake.
So to wrap it up, it sounds like concept of operations. What do I have? What is new? How things fit together? The automation helps to eliminate errors. So it streamlines service delivery. It maximizes the investments of the current tools that you have in your environment, and it enables situational awareness.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. And Jeff, thank you again for coming in and discussing what's next. Data automation or integrate. It sounds like it's a combination of the two, really, to drive us forward. So thank you again.
Thank you.
If you're interested in today's discussion, we invite you to read our show notes and download additional free tools and resources at federalleadersplaybook.com. To learn more about Acuity or to contact any of us directly, visit Acuity's website at myacuity.com.
Thanks for listening to the Federal Leaders Playbook. Check out our next episode, subscribe, and visit federalleadersplaybook.com for more great content. See you next time.